I know, this is my first live, guys. Be nice to me, please. We're getting ready to bring the guests inside. And we are doing a live tour of the Maystringer house, which I've been doing for almost 10 years. So we're going to get like actually spooky, not just my fake stuff with my stories. We're actually getting spooky, and you're gonna hear some really interesting haunted history. I will be having somebody else hold the camera for me, so I won't be doing this walking around. We're actually getting spooky, and you're gonna hear some really interesting haunted history. I will be having somebody else hold the camera for me, so I won't be. I will try and answer questions if you guys have any in between rooms. I'll be getting to you the best I can. So please be patient with me if the Wi-Fi cuts out. I apologize. There's not a whole lot we can do about signal. But it's gonna be fun. And yeah, that's about it, really. We're just waiting on people. I'm gonna try and attempt to switch the screen to the other way. Again, never done this before. You've only heard my voice so far, not actually seen me do this. Oh, it worked! Look at that! Let's see, can we do this? No, never mind, we can't. We're gonna have to do this way. Who else we got? We got Stoner and our W. Which one of you guys wants to hold the camera for me? Great. I have my teammates, Jamie and Nicole, helping me with this tonight. Just try and focus on me. Make sure you don't show my double chin.
You're a star, darling.
If there's a hair out of place, let me know. So we're just waiting on our guests to fill out the paperwork, and they'll be coming in momentarily. Also in the dining room, try and get as close to me as possible, and if you can filter everybody towards the back, because as we all know, it gets kind of loud. Also, I will say that there are some potential trigger warnings for certain people, possibly. Our tour covers sensitive topics such as racism and suicide. So, if you're not into that, you might not want to watch it. Is there anybody saying any bullshit? I'm sorry. Am I not allowed to?
The Moody Farm said, "Hey, wifey, OMG,
Moody.
wifey is live."
I love you, Moody.
You got 12 viewers, queen.
Oh my god. I was thinking there was going to be like 5.
Is Camp holding the phone? No, that would be Jamie. Hi, nice to meet you.
Camp is not holding the phone. Camp is at home. He is hunting. We play games. Most of the people that are popping up.
Oh,
are
cute. Her name is Jamie too. Or his,
Oh, I
I'm
love
not
that.
sure.
Makes me miss my Discord friends.
Name
So
twins.
these guys get to watch me do something that's a little bit different from what they're used to watching.
That's really cute. I love that.
So we're just waiting a couple minutes.
Hopefully someone will pick up on the camera.
That would actually be
That
pretty
would be
cool.
crazy.
And okay, totally up front, when I got here today, I was the first one in the building. So basically what I did, I went through the house and I said to all the spirits and stuff, I said, go ahead and go crazy. Just wait until I'm not alone in the house. Thank you. All right, we're on start. Everybody signed in and paid, well, you guys paid online, right?
Everybody's signed in.
So we are actually filming the tour tonight, so if you do not want to be on camera, we will not face the camera towards you, just so you know.
I told them they had the pleasure of having you as their last.
I know, for the people that do not know, this is actually my last ghost tour for a while, work schedules. So, welcome to the Maystringer house. My name is Tammy, that's Steve, Jamie, Heather, and Nicole. We are your ghost host and hostesses with the most and mostesses. For those of you who do not know the history of the Maystringer house, Maystringer is not a female human being in our timeline. It's actually named after the two most prominent families that lived here for periods of time. Who's never been here before? Fantastic. If I mess up, you won't even know. Good job. So John May actually moved down from Alabama in 1855. So he built the house in 1856. And then later on, in 1908, I believe, the Stringer family moved in, and they were here for a number of years. There were actually 3 generations of Stringers that lived here during that time period. We had 3 major families, the Mays, the Saxons, and the Stringers. Let's see. I've already drawn a blank.
Don't look
It's
at me,
fine.
girl.
Yeah. So, listen, I've been doing this for 10 years, and sometimes I still have brain farts. It's cool. As long as you're good with that, so am I.
You're crashing your last tour.
I know, I'm messing it up already. It's because I know I have like 20 people watching. So, the Stringer family was actually here from 1908 until 1949. In 1950, it became a rental home until 1974. So that's 24 years that multiple families stayed here for shorter periods of time. And as we all know, when we move out of a location, we take all of our belongings with us. So no, we do not have the furniture that the first family sat in, because that would be next to impossible to backtrack and find. We actually have over 13,000 donated artifacts throughout the entire museum. Even though they're not original to the house, they are all authentic. They come from various parts of the community. They all have stories and memories and history. And if you believe in spirit attachments, we have a number of those as well. Now, unfortunately, in 1974, as you can tell, this is an old house. A lot of work needs to be done on it. The plaster was crumbling, the woodworking needed to be redone. There was linoleum basically covering all the floors. The mantelpieces were painted black. It was eventually going to implode on itself. Nobody had the money to sink into this and keep it up. So it actually became abandoned. They wanted to bulldoze the house and build a medical complex in its place. That would take all the stories and the history with it. So if you look at the photograph on the wall, the woman in the long pink gown, her name was Virginia Jackson. She was a town historian, so she basically knew all the significance this house had stood for over the years, and she didn't want to see it just disappear. So she actually went knocking on doors throughout the community, trying to find as many people as she could to donate their time, their services, their skills, anything, basically to keep this house standing. Obviously, she succeeded, because now we're one of the oldest restored homes in all of Brooksville. We're a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization, so all the money that we make throughout the year for tours and special events goes right back into the upkeep and the maintenance of the home. And because we're volunteers, we're not here for a paycheck. This is actually what we like to do. We are the creepy kids that come here at the nighttime for fun. So in the 1860s, right after the Civil War was over, this is a small southern community. The slaves were now free. Not everybody was okay with this. So we also had a group running Brooksville, or they thought they were running Brooksville. They were basically a vigilante group. They called themselves the Regulators. They wanted to control everything that went on in town. There was also a man in town at the same time period by the name of Arthur Sinclair. Arthur was originally the personal servant or slave to Miss Morena. And when he became a freedman, he did great things for the community. Everybody loved him. He became a minister, but one of the things he's most notable for is marrying an interracial couple. The Regulators wanted no part of this in their town. So to make an example out of all parties involved, they ran the couple out of town, and then they found Arthur on the road while he was traveling, and they lynched him. Of course, everything comes back around. A number of these upstanding gentlemen wound up dead by various means. One of the last remaining members of the Regulators was on his way to the front of this home, and somebody rode by on horseback and shot him dead right where he stood, making it the first ride-by shooting in Hernando County history, and you're now standing in a crime scene. Fantastic. So we're going to move into the parlor. Parlors were used for every family gathering you could imagine.
They want to see the picture. Okay, for those asking to see the picture, this is the picture she was showing. The room, in case anybody is wondering where we are. They were asking to see the picture, I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
I will show the room and all of the pointed out things at the end of the room.
So happy.
Thanks, you're welcome.
So 1855 is when John May moved down from Alabama. He had his wife Morena and their 2 daughters, Annie and Matilda. They were a small family. He was a contractor, so he was in charge of the construction of the home. We believe he had his slaves help him build the house as well. Now, unfortunately, 2 years after the house was complete in 1858, John May comes down with consumption, which is what we know today as tuberculosis. And in those days, without the medical technology that we have now, if you had something that serious, most of the time it wound up being fatal. John May died at 24 years old, leaving his very young wife behind with their 2 daughters. And now she had to be a very strong woman. She was now in charge of the crops, the servants, the animals, any family businesses that they were involved in. She was now running the show. She keeps this up for 9 years until the Civil War was over. And then another man comes to town by the name of Frank Saxon. Frank was a Confederate soldier. He was the flag bearer for the Hernando County Wildcats. So one of his jobs during the war was to keep the flag safe at all times. Frank was actually wounded in battle in Perryville, Kentucky, and then captured as a prisoner of war right outside of Atlanta. When the war was over, they had nothing to do with their prisoners back then, so they literally opened the gates and let everybody go back home. So as the stories go, Frank kept that flag safe and then walked back to Brooksville from Atlanta, now going to make him a huge local hero, and he's going to go on to hold a number of high titles in the community. He starts off as a mail carrier, but then he goes on to be the chief of police. He's involved in the court system. He's the president of the railroad. He builds a church for his slaves. Articles suggest he might have had some involvement or at least knowledge of the regulators, which was why one of them was walking up to his home at that time period. Of course, when the war was over, the first thing he wants to do is have a family and a wife, and he meets Miranda May, John May's widow. And they fall in love. They get married right in this room on Christmas Day in 1866, when just a few short years earlier, John May's funeral was also held in this room. So they begin to start a family of their own. She gives birth to a little baby boy named Franklin. Unfortunately, infant mortality rates were actually very high back then. So little Franklin survived about a month before he passed away, and then they try again. They give birth this time to a little baby girl who they named Jessie May Saxon. Little Jessie May was healthy to our knowledge. Unfortunately, her mother, Miranda, was not so lucky. Miranda actually came down with an infection from childbirth, which they called childbed fever. And again, in those days, something very simple, which is treatable with antibiotics today, was not back then. She passed away 3 weeks after her daughter was born. So now Frank is a widower. He's got a newborn baby girl and 2 stepdaughters who eventually grow up, get married, and move out of the house. And he keeps this up. This is his estate now for the next several years. 1872, Jessie May is almost 3 years old. Unfortunately, she dies very suddenly by unknown causes. The reason we do not know how she passed away is because the courthouse her records were held in got burned to the ground. Articles also suggest there might have been some documents in this courthouse listing off the names of all the men that were involved in Arthur Sinclair's murder. And this information was going to be released to the public, and they didn't want their good names being tarnished. So to get rid of this problem, they decided to just burn the building down. Took a huge chunk of Brooksville history with it. Births, deaths, marriages, household deeds, completely gone. Jessie May's birth and death records were also in this courthouse. The only way we know she even existed is one single photograph, which is also her funeral photo. She's seen in her cradle during her funeral also, right in this very room. Since they didn't take pictures of children very often in those days, if one died very suddenly, you had to take a picture of the corpse or you would have no memory of that child. Post-mortem photography was actually pretty common back then. We might think of it as morbid today, but this was a way that they paid respect to their loved ones. For instance, if you had a soldier in your family, you would dress him in his uniform with his artillery, sometimes even prop him up in a chair and take a photograph after he was deceased that way. We have one more post-mortem photograph in this room, right behind you guys on the organ. That is Margaret Stringer, Dr. Stringer's wife. That's okay. She is also deceased in that photograph. Since the Stringer family was here for the longest amount of time, they were kind enough to donate 3 of their personal items back to the home so we could display them for you guys. One of which is the oil painting on the wall. That belonged to Margaret Stringer and is also rumored to have hung right in this room. We also have the Stringer family Bible in the chair in the corner. Not only is it a Bible, but it also contains a number of handwritten records from the Stringer family. In the corner, you also see a bookcase with a photograph of Judge Fred Stringer, and that's the set of law books they use in his practice. So we're going to head into the dining room. Please go all the way to the back of the room. There's plenty of room.
Here is the picture of Frank Saxon. The picture of Jessie May.
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
Yeah,
If I do that, does that help?
that might help. That helps a lot, actually, for the viewers. They saw the wall painting, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Do you want to come over this way?
That's fine, wherever you want me.
So this
I
is
might-
our dining room.
Oh, she's fine, yeah.
We're good?
Yeah, you're good.
This is our dining room. As you can see, it's pretty fancy. That's because dining rooms were specifically reserved for formal dinners in the evening. This was not an area where the family just hung out in. Every single night, the family members would gather together wearing their best attire. They would be served at a table just like this, eat dinner together and talk about their day. Now there's one very specific artifact in this room that's one of my personal favorites, and maybe if you've never been on my tour before, maybe it'll become one of yours as well. Now, we cross our fingers because sometimes it can be kind of finicky, because this is our 1900s Edison Ambarola. It plays music. And if we can get it to play properly, we'll basically be transported back into time and listen to the very same things that they listened to while they were living their everyday lives. So you want to come over, I'm going to
Yes.
have to step away from here so you guys can hear me. So you can kind of imagine a family sitting around the dinner table. The husbands are smoking cigars, sipping whiskey, maybe playing some poker. The wives are gossiping with each other. The kids are running around the house just being kids. 100 years might seem like a long time to most of us, but it's really not. Because they lived lives just like we do today, but a little bit more simple. They went to work every day. They had job stress, heartbreaks, romances. They did their grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning. They went on trips together. This music would play if they were cleaning, sewing, even if there was a funeral in the next room. And sometimes we take for granted everything that we see here, they're not decorations. Absolutely every single artifact came from somebody. It had a use, it had a purpose, and some of these items were people's favorite items in the world. They actually ate off the dishes. The women wore the dresses, the children played with the toys, they switched on the lamps at nighttime. And even though they didn't belong to the original families, they still have so much energy and memories if we just listen to what they want to tell us. And we do these tours not just to be spooky, which is great, we love that, that's why we're here. But we cannot have ghost stories without the history that comes before it, because who are we hunting? What are we investigating? We do this to pay respect to the people that came before us, honor their memories, and keep their stories alive. And it's also a commentary in paranormal investigating. When you play music from that time period, it makes them feel like they're home again. They understand that we know that they have been here so much longer than we have. We're going to head into the kitchen, which is a smaller room. We will have to squeeze a little bit. So I'm going to let you go through that door all the way.
How long has it since you got the kitchen?
A week? 2 weeks?
I haven't heard of your kitchen.
Yeah, well, that's because I make you do it. So this is our kitchen. Fun fact, there was actually no kitchen inside the home during John May's time, Frank Sax's time, or even Dr. Stringer's time. If you had a decent amount of money, most of the time you had a cookhouse that was about 20 to 30 feet away from the home because fire was the biggest danger. So it was not until the 1930s that Dr. Stringer's granddaughter had that room built onto the back of the house to use as a summer kitchen or a bedroom. Now, if you notice, there's windows going around that entire room because it was installed on hinges to let all the heat escape. Now, back in, let's see, the 1960s when it was a rental home, of course, there was a lot of families that stayed here for shorter periods of time. And sometimes we get the privilege of interacting with people that have actually stayed here. Now, a number of years ago, one of our volunteers actually got to meet somebody that lived here as a child in the 1960s. Now, he came here for a day tour, but this was the first time he came back since he was a child. And in his words, he had to grow up and be a big boy. because when he was staying here, he was 8. He was doing what most young boys do, annoying his parents. He was bouncing a ball in the house. His parents didn't like this. His mother told him to take it upstairs, put it in his room. So of course, begrudgingly, he does this. So he's bouncing the ball the entire way. He goes up the stairs, gets to the 2nd floor, he's about to turn the corner. And all of a sudden, a woman that he's never seen before, she's got her hair in a bun and she's wearing a long gown. She walks straight up to him, holds out her hand, looks him dead in the eyes, and she said, "You quit that record right now, you give me that ball." What else is he going to do? He hands her the ball, she snatches it up. She goes right back around, marches down that hallway back into his bedroom. Of course, he's standing there frozen for a few minutes because he has no idea what just happened. But he knows eventually he's going to have to go back into his bedroom. So he gathers his courage up, creeps down that hallway, and peers around the corner. She's not there anymore. The only thing he sees is a ball bouncing on the floor by itself. Now, of course, that night his parents say goodnight, sweet dreams, see you in the morning. I don't think there was much sleep that night. Now, over the years, we have a lot of guests that take a lot of pictures. Daytime, nighttime, does not matter. We've captured so much evidence, and a number of times, in this very room, we've captured a figure of a woman fitting that very same description. She's standing in that corner, and it looks like she's about to walk through that wall. Now, we do believe that since that was the original back porch, we believe there might have been a doorway there, which is why, if that's the time period she was from, she might still think it's there. So now we're going to head into that room, and while you're going through the room, if you look on the wall, you'll notice the siding for a house, because that was actually the outside back porch. We're doing good?
It keeps.
That's on the head.
He says, "Shut your ass up."
All right, this exhibit was actually started because of the donations of the uniforms that you see along the wall. This exhibit was not always here. It used to be in the back where the gift shop is now, which was the old cookhouse. So all the windows were slowly deteriorating to the floors. And during that time period,
No, she was right.